Yesterday, I was quite taken aback because we had just got a champion reveal, and it was not just any champion reveal. It was a champion reveal after a champion reveal, and to the best of my knowledge, unless it was very early on in the game's lifespan, we have never gotten back-to-back champion reveals for any sort of upcoming expansion during a spoiler season. But it wasn't even just that it was back-to-back reveals, it was a champion that we just didn't even know existed. Action was revealed for League of Legends at the exact same time as he was for Legends of Runeterra. That had never happened before, and so it was a very fun and exciting day, and I'm very excited for Action because he does so many things for the region that he is in, that is Shurima, of course. But today we got more reveals, and the event that all these reveals are for doesn't start until July 14th, and I don't know if you've checked the calendar today, but we're still quite a few days away from July 14th, and Riot is known for ending strong during spoiler seasons. So I need to say up front, I don't have any sort of inside knowledge. I don't know what's coming, but I strongly suspect that we are going to get a third champion, or something at least as impactful as what a third champion would be. Regardless of what it is, the fact that we just had a 3 champion expansion, and then we had one of the biggest balance patches ever, and now we're getting this, it is huge for Legends of Runeterra. Cannot think of a better time to be playing this game than right now. I'm so excited and so pumped. But I also, before we dive into the actual cards, want to say that I love that they did the reveal for Action this way, because traditionally for reveal season, we are shown some spells and some followers before we're shown the champion that they kind of quote unquote support, or whatever archetype it is that they support. And that kind of builds our hype because we get to spend a day or two guessing what we think the champion's going to be, what we think it's going to do, because we're familiar with League of Legends champions. But this time around, the 3 cards we got shown today are all kind of supporting Action, but we get them after Action because if they had done it the other way around, we would have had no idea what they were trying to tell us, because we didn't know Action existed. So because of that kind of like dual reveal, I'm glad that they did it this way. But the 3 cards that were revealed today do support Action, which in turn kind of supports all of Shurima, because he does such a good job of hitting all of the region's sub themes. But we are going to dive into the cards now and kind of talk about which sub themes they hit. First up, we have Vekauran Vagabond. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but that's how my dumb Midwestern accent is going to pronounce it. This is a 3-cost 3/3 that says when I'm summoned, summon a Warlord's Palace or advance it 2 rounds. There are some things to note here. One, this kind of supports the landmark sub-theme within Shurima, and it obviously directly supports Action. It also helps you with giving you another way to trigger Shaped Stone into that magical +3/+1, which is a pretty big deal. Now, this is only the Palace, so this will not advance a Warlord's Horde. So if you have already leveled up Action, this will not get you to the Horde faster. But because this summons a Palace or advances it too, if you've leveled up Action and you already have a Horde on the board and then you play Vagabond, my understanding is you're now going to have a Palace and a Horde, and you can continue to generate value that way, which is a bit neat, a bit interesting. Obviously, a 3/3 for 3 with no relevant keywords is not much to write home about, but I do love that this is a summon effect and not necessarily a play effect. It means that all of those things that I like to highlight still apply here, whether that's flicker effects, in Shurima, that's things like Hourglass, or even just revive effects, so Callista, all that Shadow Isles trickery. So I do like that. I think ultimately this card is going to likely just be an Expeditions card. It supports Action really well, I think, in that format, but I haven't seen enough from Action to say you're going to build like the all-in Action deck. I think that Action is going to be the champion you choose to support another champion. Like, I want to build a Taric deck, so you build Taric with Action, or I want to build, you know, Talia or Sivir, but then you put Action with them, but the other one is still kind of the focus in my mind. That's not to say that Action's not powerful, but all of his stuff is really dependent on you making the most of the other cards you pair with him. He's like the support champion that doesn't have the support keyword or ability. So in that regard, playing a card like Vagabond here that is so action focused feels a little weird, but I do love this card for expeditions. It still plays into the region sub themes. I think it really rounds things out. And as I said, I could be wrong. We might get more reveals and maybe action is great, or maybe I'm just undervaluing the power of the horde when it finally triggers. I don't know, but I do like the card. Love its design, love its flavor, but I don't know if it's going to find a competitive home with action. Next up, we have Beccaron Safecracker. This is a 4-cost 4/4. It has a play effect instead of a summon effect, and this one is give an ally +2/+0 and give an enemy -2/-0 this round. I've said a bunch of times already that action supports all of the different sub-themes within Shurima, and this is another great example. This card directly supports action by targeting an ally, and we know that he likes that. But Shurima kind of has this sub-theme where you are supposed to be playing fearsome units and then taking advantage of the fact that you have fearsome units. What I mean by that is there are a number of cards like Bakari Reaper, Merciless Hunter, Nasus, Raz, for example. They all have fearsome, and then you've got these supporting cards that reduce the attack power of your opponent's units, whether that is the right that does it board wide, whether that is a card like Exhaust, or even the other Bakari unit where it's a -1/-0 on something. But there's all these ways to manipulate the attack power of your opponents along with fearsome units in Shurima, and this card feels like the kind of card you would use to support that archetype. I think +2/+0 on something with a -2 in the other direction is a very powerful effect. However, just like the Vagabond, I think this is going to end up being relegated more to expedition use because it is on a body. Now, normally playing a unit and getting some sort of benefit is good. That's normally the exact sort of thing that would make something playable. In this case, however, you're kind of doing a combat trick and you want to traditionally save those for combat. So if you play this, you are opening yourself up to allowing your opponent to respond, and they can come back by stunning something, playing a different blocker, etc., etc. So if this was an effect that was on a burst spell, that would be entirely different because you could play the spell at burst speed and then go immediately into an attack before your opponent could develop another blocker, for example. But in this case, because it's tied to a body, it's not great, and the body itself is just a 4/4 for 4. There's no other relevant keywords, no long-term value, and you have to bounce it all the way back to your hand to get the effect again because it's a play effect. So it is a powerful effect, but I think that unfortunately, because it's tied to a body, it's not going to see much competitive play. But I do love this for expeditions where you're looking for every little edge you can get, and I think that there's a lot of value there for this card. The last card that was revealed is Vectorin Bruiser. This is a 5-cost 5/5, and on strike, you create a lucky find in hand. Now, this card hits a lot of great sub-themes. The lucky find treasure hunting thing is obviously part of that. This is a 5-attack unit, so it helps you with your reputation builds, which coincidentally are usually builds that you kind of want lucky finds for. Specifically, I'm thinking Sivir, because if you can give her relevant keywords once she levels up, then she's kind of giving your entire team those keywords. So this is great in those respects, but it's also great for supporting action because the lucky finds target allies, and as we know, that's something that action likes. So this is, in my opinion, just kind of a beautiful card that hits a number of different design points that I enjoy and I like. I don't know if this is going to find a competitive home just because at 5 this card is competing with something like Ruin Runner, which is absolutely busted. And so when you are building your constructed deck and you are including Shurima, even if you're playing the reputation archetype, you have to say to yourself, do I want Bruiser, or do I want Ruin Runner, or do I want both? And if the answer is both, it's probably because whatever region you are pairing with Shurima for this archetype just doesn't have good 5-drops and you really want another 5-drop, because Ruin Runner is still the clear winner in my mind. It has a relevant keyword, it has spell shield, and it's got a higher attack value. So I think that this card is gonna have a hard time finding a home just because there are so many good options already out there. I think that even beyond Ruin Runner, there's a number of good 5-drops, especially once you start pairing other regions together with Shurima, that are going to compete with this. And ultimately, you're going to have to figure out whether or not that lucky find is worth it or not. I like that it is Strike, and I could see some cheeky fun decks that arise where maybe you want to play Sivir alongside somebody like Jarvan or Garen, or do something with Demacia. And in those instances, perhaps you could take advantage of the lucky finds. But the problem is, once you go to Demacia, as I was saying before, there's already a lot of really good 5-drops in other regions, and Demacia might have the best of them, period. So yes, you get access to things like single combat and concerted strike and all of the things that would allow you to abuse this strike feature in Demacia, but now you're not just competing with Ruin Runner, you're also competing with Radiant, and you're competing with Screeching Dragon, and even the 5-4 challenger is good. Garen, if you want to include him as a champion, and the list goes on and on. So I really like this card, but I really think it's going to have a hard time beating out the other quality 5-drops. I think this would be a great card to include if it was like 1 mana cheaper for slightly lower stats, but then at that point it's kind of competing with the other Shurima lucky find unit. So I don't know, but I like the card thematically. I hate that I'm basically saying all 3 of these cards are going to find a home in expeditions, because I know that's kind of like the death of cards when you say that, but I really do feel like they have value in expeditions for sure. I would feel fine with putting any of these in an expedition deck where I'm also running action, absolutely. But whether or not they are enough to break into competitive decks or climbing the ladder, my gut right now says no, unless we see more cool stuff coming in the reveals. That's always the caveat during reveal season, right? Is you gotta kind of see the whole picture. But with what we know today, none of these scream like auto include in my action deck. So that's it for today's reveals. Let me know what you think of these. Let me know again what you think of action. I'm loving the discourse. And I guess as a final call to action, let me know what you think the ending big reveal is going to be, because like I said, Riot is known for saving the best for last. I think it'll probably be another champion. If I had to guess, my money would be on somebody like Senna, because again, this is very much a ruination event, and it's all the Sentinels and the Shadow Isles stuff and Viego. And I know we have Senna as a follower already, but I really think she deserves to be a champion, and I think this would be the right time to do it. I am curious if that ends up being the case. I'm curious how that interaction is going to work with Lucian as a champion, because we know that his wording mentions Senna, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. I think it's going to be Senna. I want to know, what do you all think? What are you excited about? Do you think it could be something not a champion? And if that's the case, what do you think it would be? But anyway, if you made it this far, I love you. Thank you for watching. Until next time, may you walk on warm sands.